Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your weekly update in the Mag 7. That is the Magnificent 7, as is commonly referred. Google, or the alphabet actually, the old Google, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Apple, Nvidia, and Tesla. Is that 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's right, it's 7. So let's jump into Alphabet, symbol GOOGL, Google. So we closed 3 weeks ago, clearly on that big rally 3 weeks ago, above the 222.67. This is almost a 2-year channel top. Actually, I'm sorry, it's a 2.5, almost 3-year channel top. In January, it will be 3 years. So we closed above it 3 weeks ago, and that set up, we're sort of in this uncharted territory. You can go back in time and just see that we are as high as we've ever been. And so this wave counts, and you can do the math here very simply. You've got a B minus A, and then you add that to C, that takes you to 264.24, and then you have the full swing of B minus C, you add that back to B, and that takes you to 273.57. There, you could call them, they're in the same region. This is an objective, a 2 to 3 month target, 3 weeks into it, and we're like 80% of the way there. And in fact, last week's low of 244.66 is the beginning of a gap now between it and the previous week's high of 242.25. And, simply put, holding above 244.66 will keep this upper area in reach possibly this week. Over the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say at the latest, especially with present volatility. This is a zone we could top out at through the rest of the year and fall away within several months back to 222.67. Quite honestly, I don't have an objective beyond 273.57. I'll get busy looking for that, but as far as this stock is concerned, it has become such a sort of a hyperbolic vertical rally that the only way I think you should sell it is on weakness. And that would emerge this week if we close below last week's low. That would be a settlement below the low of the high. Better yet, if we put out a new high, last week's high was 256 even. If we put out a new all-time high and then fell back to close below 244.66, that would be a key reversal high or a bearish engulfing pattern in candlestick speak. That would then indicate, with present volatility, possibly within 2 to 3 weeks, a retracement back to 222.67. This nearly 3-year channel top is our base of long-term support, able to contain selling through the rest of the year, and once tested, we can push into the mid-260s, the low 270s within several months. If we were to close below 222.67 over the next month or two, I would just take you to this chart here. That would indicate 222.67 shown in the previous chart. Within a number of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks with present volatility, this 199.70 level, which is this former descending channel top that just may contain selling through the rest of the year. But honestly, if Alphabet were to collapse back below 222.67, I'm not crazy being a longer term investor. I'm not, it's not a doomsday scenario, but it is one of, we probably have a good high well into next year if we were to close below 222.67. Let's continue with Amazon. Same story here for the last couple of months. In this consolidation phase, just below the high settlement price that was put out in January on the weekly chart and the high itself of 242.52.
If you're finding value in this analysis, it's only a glimpse of what we offer. Your real trading edge starts at wickedstocks.com. Each week, premium members receive 2 high-probability stock picks. Each one comes with a complete trade plan, including exact entry, profit target, stop loss, and regular updates so you can manage the trade with confidence. You'll also get daily video analysis in the top traded markets, the SPY, the Triple Q, and Nvidia, highlighting the key price levels, trends, and trade setups we're focused on. Whether you're day trading or swing trading, these insights help you zero in on the highest quality opportunities with clarity. Try it all free for 5 days. Cancel at any time.
This 237, 242 area can continue to contain buying through October. And from here we can fall back to, I don't expect it necessarily, but we can quite easily over the next month or two fall back into this 211.83 to 214.13 region. These convergent channel structures able to contain selling on a monthly, possibly through the rest of the year basis. Now I show 225.41 here as our short-term, near-term into early October pivot point. It is a simple rising channel bottom. I like it because it also correlates pretty well with the low of the high that was put out 2 weeks ago. Following the April low, the high was 2 weeks ago, and that is 226.29 that you can see in that yellow square. And so closing below 225.41 would be kind of a near-term double sell signal. And I think you can reliably then either exit any long position you might have if your time horizon is over the next couple of months, or you could even play the short side to 211.83 to 214.13, where we could bottom out through October, round back up to this significant zone of resistance within a matter of a month or two. If we close above 242.52 and you're looking to go long Amazon, you're waiting for the opportunity, that would be it. Within 2 to 3 months at the most, this rising 264.91 channel top that spans several years and able to contain quarterly, possibly annual highs when tested. But for right now, Amazon is sellable in the upper 230s, low 240s, and it's very buyable in the low to mid 210s, and we would indicate the low to mid 210s if we were to close this week below 225.41. If over the next month or two we close below this 211.83 level, we've got a good high into next year through the first quarter within 3 to 5 months. I think the risk would be to the downside into the upper 150s perhaps. Let's move on to Meta. Meta has a significant 3-year channel top at 838.08 that is yet to be tested, and if tested over the next month or two, can contain buying through the first quarter, and we can fall away from there. Now, I am expecting 838.08 by the end of October, holding above this 764.90 inside channel. 3 to 5 weeks, we should reach 838.08. Unless we close below 764.90 this week, then within 3 to 5 weeks, probably sooner, we test 682.48. It's at 682.48 where we could bottom out through the rest of the year, and by the end of the year, round back up to the 838.08 long-term channel top. If you're looking for a dynamic over the next full quarter, over the fourth quarter itself, it is selling the upper 830s and buying the low 680s, both of which are rising at their own pace with an inside pivot point in that range at 764.90. If over the coming weeks we close above 838.08, Meta enters a whole new phase whereby I would expect over the following, this took about 6 months. It hasn't reached yet, actually. This is the April low. So, this is kind of a 6-month move. If we close above 838.08 in the coming month or two, another 6 months or sooner, 1129.56 would be anticipated. So if you're looking to go long Meta, it is a settlement either A, above 838.08, and I'm talking kind of the 2 to 3 to 5 month crowd, either a settlement above 838.08 or testing 682.48. If we were to close below 682.48 in the coming weeks, that is a good indication through the first quarter of next year. Within 2 to 3 months, I would expect the 520s where we could bottom out well into next year. I don't expect 526.63 unless we close below 682.48. On to Microsoft. Microsoft tested like a 5-year channel top about a month and a half ago in July at 562.28 and climbing. In the very same week, we tested this, collapsed back to close below the sister formation that is 536.39. Now, I do expect 536.39 now over the next 3 to 5 weeks following last week's settlement back above the high of the low from 3 weeks ago. We also cleared the low of the high from a month and a half ago from July. So I think you add that all up. The emphasis is now to the upside. And by the end of October or sooner, 536.39 in reach. This is still a valid channel structure. We never closed above it. We certainly pushed through it substantially back in July, but it is one that can contain weekly, possibly monthly buying pressures. And if we close this week above 536.39, within 3 to 5 more weeks, I would expect a retest of 562.28 where we could top out through the rest of the year, even through the first quarter of next. Downside, closing back below this 509.43, 511.97 region will allow this market to fall back, I don't know, by the end of October, certainly possible by the end of November anyway, to 468.35. this former high here back in July of 24, able to contain monthly, possibly quarterly selling pressures. I will say, as I have before, that this channel top at 562.28 has a channel bottom at 370.30, and I always pay attention to that once you test a significant long-term channel top, you must allow for the possibility of channel support in the next, say, full year. This was an equal distance from November of 21 to roughly October of 22. So this was about a full year in itself. And that's pretty much what I'm talking about as a possibility that becomes fully clarified with a settlement below 468.35 in the months ahead. On to Apple. Just a reminder, we cover Apple on a week-by-week basis through our paid wickedstocks.com platform, but I am showing just kind of broad brushstroke. I am eliminating some of the more specific signals, 3 to 5 week signals. But bottom line with Apple, we did close back above this channel structure last week, which has now resumed 260.10 as a by the end of October objective, and quite possibly by the end of the year we can retest this 5-year channel top at 277.31, where we could top out through the first quarter, possibly into later 26. So we remain bullish above 238.35. Downside, this is where I do not show the exact level that have settled below. Does indicate bearish continuation into October, November, but I do think just this in itself is sufficient at 225.95. That would also violate the other area that I'm just talked about that I refrained from showing because, you know, it's just not fair to the people who pay for this information. This is broad brushstroke. In wickedstocks.com, I present roughly 6 to 9 charts that go through near term, mid-term, and long-term. But if we close not only back below 238.35 this week, but over the next few weeks below 225.95, that is an indication of a good high through the rest of the year. And over the following 1 to 2 months, we test 5-year channel support at 194.24, which we did test back in April. I'd mentioned after testing this support back in April that you can anticipate over the next full year the upper 270s, a long-term channel top, which I show once again here. And we are now well on our way to seeing that, especially last week with the settlement above 238.35. Nvidia, we cover for free every single day on our Wicked Stocks YouTube channel. You probably know that already. These are the basic parameters, 182.46. If we close above 182.46 this week, all systems go to the upside over the next 2 to 3 months, 219.64 in reach. Until then, we can fall back perhaps into the upper 140s over the next couple of months, which becomes fully clarified following a settlement this week below 167.02. This could then be a 3 to 5 week sell-off to 148.83, where we could bottom out through the rest of the year, well into next, and round back up to new highs. I do want to mention that in the daily NVIDIA report, we are not using 182.46 as our upward pivot point, but rather a descending channel top that this week is at 175.01 on the weekly chart. I would encourage you to watch the daily NVIDIA report on our YouTube channel because this is a much more refined resistance level on a day-to-day basis and will give you an early lead on a significant buy signal up to 219.64 if settled above. Finally, Tesla threw off a buy signal 2 weeks ago when it closed for the first time above the 361.30 channel top following the repeated testing that goes all the way back to May of this year. Having settled above 361.30, we anticipate 523.57 5-year channel resistance as a 5 to 8 month objective or sooner. That sooner would come into play. Do I show it? I actually don't. Let me draw it out here right now. And if you're watching the Tesla report, you know that we have a weekly channel top that this week is at 456.50, and that is an intermediate resistance area that we could actually see this week given present volatility. We could see 456.50. I'm not expecting it. I do outline those expectations in the daily Tesla report. But 456.50 can contain buying through October, and from here we can fall back into the 360s again. If we close above 456.50, the 523.57 channel top is then likely to be tested within 1 to 3 months, depending on volatility, rather than the 5 to 8 months that I've been mentioning now for some time. A downside this base of support, 359.62 to 361.30, can absorb selling through the rest of the year, well into next, and once again 523.57 likely over the next 5 to 8 months. If we close below 359.62 this week, not going to happen. But if so, we're just another 1 to 3 weeks away from testing significant 311 even new channel bottom, able to contain selling through the rest of the year, and if settled below, would aggressively pivot the market south into Q1, Q2 of next year. Look at this, past 13 minutes, almost hitting 15. I'm going to leave it at that. Please click like, share, subscribe. Check out wickedstocks.com. Take advantage of our 5-day free trial. I will be back, of course, next week with another update on the Mag 7.